statistical, mathematical fact
never has been down.
has broken every single record. There is no asset that has come close.
It's the only thing in the industry that was not touched, that was not hacked, and it never fails doing what it promised in 2009. It's never
What's
failed.
the best performing asset the world has ever seen? And you'll find out that it's Bitcoin.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending upon where you are in the world. Welcome to another live space with Oliver Velez. Of course, my name is Oliver Velez, and I'm your Bitcoiner for life, or that's what I'd like to be. That's what I'm trying to be. So guys, welcome once again. Last time I think we got together was just a few days ago. We had an very interesting talk on real estate and whether or not Bitcoin was rendering real estate, amongst many other investments, obsolete or irrelevant today. If you missed that, I strongly encourage that you listen to that. That episode actually spurred quite the debate and had a lot of engagement, and I think it's worthy to be taken in. For those of you who are not aware, every single space I do here does wind up on my Bitcoin podcast. That is called Bitcoin Unleashed. It's relatively new, but it's building up quite the following as well as quite the content. And that podcast, Bitcoin Unleashed, can be found on all of your podcasting mediums or platforms of choice. So pick your poison. I actually encourage that you go to the Fountain app to listen to it, where you can earn some free Satoshis for listening. And that application does give me the ability to post a variety of clips or smaller segments that I carve out of the longer form content that makes a lot of the information and a lot of the content I share there a lot more easily digested. And so I've heard from a variety of people who've told me that they have been binge listening to those clips. And I'm very, very happy that is the case. So anyway, today, guys, I know this is probably the worst possible time on a Friday afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. I know it's probably the worst possible time to have a live spaces now. Most of you are about your everyday lives, starting your weekends, what have you. But I've got to take the opportunities that I have, and this is just one of them. And since everything we discuss or talk, or everything that I talk or discuss during this session is going to wind up in recorded form here, as well as on my Bitcoin podcast, the live time really doesn't matter so much unless you want to be slightly more engaged. Now, for those of you who are not aware of me or what I do during these live spaces, I do not pass the mic. That is not the format of spaces that I actually conduct here. Perhaps at some point in the future, I'll have a guest on, or maybe, get venturous and pass the mic to one of you at one particular point. But I find that the manner in which I deliver the information that I have and the knowledge that I know is best in monologue format. And to have you ask your questions during that monologue or at some point after that monologue. And I just think that there's a lot more fluidity that way. And so there you go. So your request to get the mic is basically going to be for naught. So just to let you know. All right, guys. So listen, I just wanted to have somewhat of an open Q&A. I want to do these regularly, and at some particular point, perhaps maybe compile all of the best questions and answers that go with those questions in an episode or two on my podcast and here as well. But we're in very exciting times. And while I do have the ability to answer many questions in the X or Twitter format, in my opinion, there's no better way to do it than to do it live via voice at times. So if you have questions, please post them in the link below. Now, I will tell you this right off the bat. I am not an expert, and I have never claimed to be one. In fact, I consider myself a Bitcoin baby. But it is an honor to actually learn and grow alongside you here in real time. And that's what I decided to do when I started posting Bitcoin content on my Twitter page. I felt it was a great medium for me to actually learn to become a better Bitcoiner in real time with other Bitcoiners and other burgeoning Bitcoiners and other even, I don't know, enemies or haters of Bitcoin. I felt this was the greatest place to throw myself in the midst of, to help, solidify my conviction about what I consider to be one of the greatest discoveries in the human race. And so it is an honor for me to be here and learn and grow alongside you in real time. I am not an expert. With that being said, I will tell you this. I've spent over 10,000 hours over the course of the last 4 years studying, investigating, and researching Bitcoin. And I will tell you that the more I delve into this amazing this amazing asset, for lack of a better word, the more I realize how profoundly deep the Bitcoin rabbit hole is. Now, some might ask, well, what are some of the amazing things that came from my study? And I will tell you, it's very difficult to go over every single thing in a soundbite or so, but I will tell you a few things that really rocked my world as I began to go deeper and deeper down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. And I'd like to share those with you because those things that rocked my world might very well be the things that rock yours. And if not, they might be some of the things that spur some very interesting, deep, and productive questions. So the first thing that really took me um, in a big way was realizing that Bitcoin was actually prophesied by Nikola Tesla and Henry Ford at the turn of the century. Now, this was mind blowing to me. It made me realize that this is not something that popped into our existences out of the blue. This is not really anything new. That Nikola Tesla talked about a money backed by energy and how a money backed by energy would end wars. Henry Ford followed up on that message with the same thing and actually died with his last dream being to have a money that was no longer backed by gold, but rather was backed by energy, and how this money would end wars as well. And so, as I began to go deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole and understand that the idea of a money, a monetary unit of value, backed by something that was largely outside of the control of human beings, the realization that this was not something new struck me in a very profound way. And it made my interest in Bitcoin and knowing everything about it actually double, if not triple. Now, just as impactful was my realization that Bitcoin was a work in progress over a 40 plus year span of time. And a lot of people are unaware of this, that Bitcoin was not the first attempt at a digital, decentralized form of money and value transfer. In fact, it had been tried multiple times. And each one of those failures sort of was provided for another more advanced step to the next rendition or the next attempt at such. And realizing that the final product that we know, or the final discovery that we know as Bitcoin, and we'll get to that in just a moment, was actually the culmination of 4 decades of work and prior attempts. And this added an extra layer of legitimacy and to Bitcoin for me. I was somewhat concerned that first attempts are usually not the true innovative ones. And that's one of the things that bothered me when I first stepped my toe into the realm of Bitcoin. But it's the first one, but realizing that it wasn't the first one, that there were 4 decades of other ones, and that this was the culmination of all of the mistakes, all of the things that caused failures with the other ones. And that was truly mind-blowing to me as well. I remember the day as if it were yesterday, when it became clear that Satoshi Nakamoto had solved the Byzantine general's problem. Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with this, but the Byzantine or the Byzantine, I think both pronunciations are correct. That problem, the Byzantine or Byzantine general's problem, that was a complex problem that mathematicians have been trying to solve for millennia. And it was simply absolutely mind-blowing to me when I realized that Bitcoin was the solution to that problem. And just as mind-blowing was also my realization that it was the solution to a problem that many thought would never be solved, the digital double spend problem. Double spending a digital item was regarded as unsolvable, that there could not be a way, there could not be scarcity in the digital space because the double spend problem could not be solved. That how do you solve double spending in the digital space? And as an example of this, as an example of how mind-blowing this was, let me just say this. It's commonly known by all of us that if I send you an email, I always retain a copy of the email, that there is no way for me to send it and no longer have the email. And so in a way, every single time I send it, I am actually increasing the supply of that email. And if that other person sends the email to 100 other people, we're only duplicating the same email and multiplying the supply of that email ad infinitum. If I were to take a digital photo and send it to you, I still retain the photo. And so what Bitcoin, or what Satoshi Nakamoto discovered, was that no, there is something called digital scarcity. There is this non-double spend act that can take place in this new realm called the digital world. And I find it amazing that not many people understand the enormity of that, the importance of that. And all of this led me to see that Bitcoin was not an invention. I repeat, traders, Bitcoiners, supporters, followers, haters, all of you, all of these things that kept blowing me away, these things led me to see that this is not an invention. Bitcoin was not an invention, but rather the discovery of a solution. Bitcoiners, solutions are not inventions. A solution to the problem is not an invention. I am going to solve 1 + 1 = X. All right. I solved the problem. It is 2. I did not discover 2, did I? If I solve a complex mathematical equation and I solve the problem, the solution to that problem is not an invention. I have discovered the solution. Bitcoin is the discovery of a solution that had been sought in part for millennia. And OMG, I was absolutely blown away. I'm sorry if I'm overusing that term, but it truly was life-changing for me. So solutions aren't inventions, they're discoveries. And as such, this meant that Bitcoin was a one-off. This meant that if Bitcoin wasn't an invention, but rather a solution, which is nothing more than a discovery, that Bitcoin was a one-time event that could never again be repeated. Did you hear me? That if Bitcoin is a solution, it means that it's not an invention. If is it a solution, it means that it's the discovery. It's a discovery And as a discovery, it can never happen again. I'm going to repeat that 2 more times. A discovery can never happen again. Last time, a discovery can never happen twice. And once again, I'm sorry, OMG, mind blown. This is why it was this final epiphany that instantly converted me into a Bitcoin only advocate, a maximalist, if you will, or what I will more affectionately call today a 13 percenter. I am Bitcoin only. Yes, I am a 13 percenter, which is a metaphor for that very rare group of people on earth right now. Right now, we are rare on earth, where I believe that Bitcoin is not an invention, it's a discovery. I believe as a 13 percenter that you can't have 2 of these, that Bitcoin is a one-off, that it is truly the immaculate conception. It's the final solution. And you can't solve a problem twice. You can't discover something twice. This makes every single other attempt at an improvement on Bitcoin, an attempt to create something that does something that Bitcoin doesn't do, bullshit. And I will tell you that my life was changed forever. Am I an expert? No, not in the least. Can I help you see some of the things I saw and continue to see through the lens of 4 decades of TradFi experience? Well, that's where we're here to find out. So I encourage, ask away, and I promise I'll give it my darndest shot. Now, I will say that most people never ask me questions, and I used to take offense at that. Like, why don't these people ask me questions? But since I'm an optimist at heart, I decided to sort of take that as a positive, all right? That you don't ask me questions largely because I do such a wonderful, amazing job at being so thorough that my talks actually answer your questions in advance. So perhaps that's what I've done with my little monologue here today. But let me just see here. Mike has one for me. He says, Oliver, can you explain your light bulb moment when you went from selling thousands of BTC to OMG, I now see what this is? I'm actually, Mike, that's a good question, by the way. I'm actually explaining some of the things that culminated together in this single point of my mind being blown. And while I can't say one of those things really did it for me, it was sort of like discovering little pieces of a puzzle, and you don't know what the full picture is. You don't even know what the pieces are. You don't know the picture that these pieces of the puzzle are supposed to make. You just discover the pieces. But after a while, when you start to put or fit some of the pieces together, boom, you realize, oh my God, this is the picture of a white horse on a green meadow with a brown fence and a red barn with blue skies and white clouds above. Like when you put enough of the pieces together, you see, even before you truly know, even before you truly have the full puzzle done, you have enough of it done where, I see it. It's a white horse in a green meadow with a brown fence and green, brown fence, red barn in the back, and blue skies with white clouds. I see it, even though the puzzle's not together. That all of those pieces coming together hit me one day in the midst, Mike. When I say it hit me one day, it hit me while selling. That was just a crazy moment. It literally was like Paul from Damascus being knocked off of his horse in a moment and instantly being converted. I was instantly converted in the midst of selling thousands upon thousands of Bitcoin that we had accumulated from 3,800 all the way up to around $6,000 of Bitcoin. Now, if you think about this, I told this story before, but I teach my traders that um, when we're going for a medium term gain in something, we go through a period of accumulating at first, right? And then we have certain sell guidelines for our accumulated position. So one of those guidelines is what triggered me starting to sell off my Bitcoin. So if we get a if we get a triple in the position, if we get a triple in the position inside of a certain period of time, I won't bore you with the specific details of these rules, right? But one of those rules was triple inside of a certain period of time. That's not sustainable. There's a certain percentage you sell, and the idea was to sell 2/3 of the position. Now, it's not that I have a rule where I sell 2/3 of a position on every triple. No, it's only specific tripling of your position inside of a time that is outside of the statistical norm. And Bitcoin delivered a triple in my position in that period of time, and it triggered a rule that I'd been applying for 3 decades in my traditional finance life. And so I'm a trader who abides by rules. That's why I've lasted for 4 decades, because I follow my rules. And it was in the midst of unwinding this 2/3 of my Bitcoin position that I'm like, oh my God, what the heck am I doing? And so thank God I didn't quite get to the point where I sold 2/3, but I got pretty close to it. And then I went into the scramble of my life. And I will tell you, Mike and everyone listening here, I chased Bitcoin, as this was around 14,000 and change, right? I chased Bitcoin to get every Bitcoin that I sold back. I chased it from 14,000 all the way to 69,000. You want to see you want to know someone who bought Bitcoin at 69,000? You're listening to him right now. I bought Bitcoin. My lowest purchase price is 3,800. My highest purchase price is 69,100 and change. I bought the top. The top didn't mean anything to me at that point. I had my epiphany. I just scrambled to get every Bitcoin I sold back because of the enormous error I realized that I made. And buying Bitcoin as aggressively as I could from 14 all the way to 69,000, I still barely put a dent in the Bitcoin that I'd sold. Do you understand how difficult it is to have Bitcoin at 3,800 and you're buying it at 69? This has traditionally and historically kept many of your Bitcoin OGs out of the game today. Most OGs who understood Bitcoin or saw potential in Bitcoin back in the early days in 2011, 12, 13, 14. Many of these OGs have no Bitcoin today because they bought when it was sub $1. They bought when it was under $10, and it's difficult to buy at 38,000 today. It's a psychological hurdle that very few human beings can get beyond. It's almost as if you feel like you have the right to get it lower because I recognized it at $10. I am not going to be the dummy who buys it now at 38,000 when I had it at $10. And I was feeling this when I had it at 3,800, and I'm now buying it back at 16,000, 17,000, 18,000. And Some people say, well, Oliver, how did you chase it all the way to 69,000? Why didn't you just turn around and get it all back at 15,000? And I'm like, you don't understand that that's easier said than done. And that's Monday morning quarterbacking, because the mindset that kicks in for everyone after they let it go and they want it back is that I'll wait for a pullback. So I was waiting for a 50% pullback. I didn't want to buy it at 15. I had it at 38 and I felt like this is going to pull back to at least 6, 7. Let me wait. Boom. It exploded to 18,000. Now I'm saying, okay, at least it's got to pull back to 10 or 12. Boom. Went to 28,000. All right. At 28,000, at least it's got to pull back to 22, right? Boom. 35. And I did this all the way to 69. And well, actually, initially 64. What really helped me was the China mining ban back in May of 2021 that knocked Bitcoin all the way back from 64,000 to 28,000 and change. Guys, I remember, because I bought Bitcoin every single day of my entire existence for 3 straight years. You understand this? Every day. I'm talking weekends too. Because I remember every single price. I remember Bitcoin dropping from 64,000 all the way down to 28,000 and change. It didn't hit 28, not at least on the exchanges that I was operating on. I was buying over 8 different exchanges just to get as much as I possibly could at the better prices. I was using OTC desks as well. And so that helped me get a chunk back. Then I kept chasing it again from 28,000 all the way to 69,000, and I still didn't have all of my Bitcoin back. And thank the gods of Bitcoin, the gods of the market. Perhaps it was them, or maybe it's me trying my best to live a good life, having a clean heart. I don't know what gave me this blessing, but I got the blessing of my life. I got the reprieve of my life. I got Bitcoin topping out at 69,000 and change and dropping all the way to 15,000. And I am telling you that I thought that I was never going to get it back, guys. I thought that I was going to be another meme, another OG 10 years from now who goes to the grave telling the story of how I had Bitcoin at 3,800 and sold it and never was able to get back the same amount that I had. I didn't want to be that meme, but I thought that I was going to be that meme forever, because I thought Bitcoin was 108, 110,000 minimum. And I'm telling you that if it weren't for a variety of things that happened at the same time, the approval of Bitcoin futures, ETFs, right near the top, the China mining, yes, ban, the hit to the hash rate, the fraud in the system, the blowups in your Celsiuses, your BlockFis of the world, the Voyagers of the world, the Three Arrows Capital frauds, fraudulent activity, the Alameda, the FTX, all of that was a blessing for me. Because had it not been for that, had it not been for the upside being clipped by all of these things, I would be sitting here today as a meme telling you the story of how I had so many Bitcoin at 38, 4,000, and I was never able to get it back. But I'll tell you this, it was painful. I will tell you this, it's still painful. I will tell you this, I'll probably never nix that pain. I'll tell you this, it was extraordinarily expensive. You don't understand buying millions of dollars for something at 3,800 and spending 20 times that to get the same thing back. most of you don't have or never will understand that pain. It'll live with me forever. And it is one of the reasons why I pound the table every single day of my life. Don't sell. I'm telling you, this is not the time in the adoption curve to be selling when less than half of 1% of the world is in this thing. I have lived through the computer craze, the personal computer craze that brought me to one of my biggest plays, Microsoft, all the way back in the late 1980s, guys, early 1990s. I lived through and profited from Apple and the craze it went through. I lived through and profited from Amazon and the craze it went through. I saw what the internet did. I was one of the first adopters of the internet all the way back in 1994. I posted it here. I came to you with receipts. I showed you my first website in 1994. Just look on my page. I showed you that my service was ranked #1 in the United States by Barron's as being one of the first adopters in my space, the first adopters of the internet. I lived this. I understand what these S-curve adoptions do. I live them. And I am telling you that selling Bitcoin today is like selling Apple in 1994. When Bitcoin's 14, Apple's was 14 in 1994. That's freaking ridiculous. Bitcoin's about generational wealth, people. It is not about let me use it to get my next vacation. This is disrespectful to one of the most, if not the most innovative items that have ever been available to the human race. All right. Bitcoin made this possible, saying, Oliver, I just watched your trading video. How can someone join your team? Guys, I do like to try to keep everything sort of Bitcoin centric and Bitcoin focused here on Twitter. I have carved out X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. I've carved out this little space for myself just to speak about Bitcoin. So you rarely, if ever, hear me here or read me here talking about my trading or whatever, just maybe in passing, but I just don't want to do that here. And so all of my other social media, especially YouTube, you can go there and basically find out. All right. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate your interest as well. Bitcoin made this possible. All right. But speaking of trading as well, guys, I will say this, that someone asked me today, Oliver, how can you claim to be a trader? How can you still claim to be a trader when in fact you took the very last trade, which is Bitcoin? And it was such an interesting point. I loved it, by the way, because this is very true in a sense that Bitcoin is the last trade. Bitcoin makes trading, in a sense, obsolete. I want you to understand that trading is the most appropriate when you have a world, right, in which all of the boats that you have available to you, they all are leaking. Think about this for a moment. All the boats, you've got 27 boats in the water, but you have to live your life on the water, and you've only got 21 to choose from. Now, you can change boats whenever you like, but you must always maintain yourself in one of the boats. So you've got 27 boats to live on in a broken system, but all of the boats are sinking. So which boat do you think you go to? You jump in the boat that is sinking more slowly than all of the other 26 boats, right? But when your boat that you're in starts to sink faster, then another boat, you then trade your boat for the other boat that's sinking slower. And you stay there until that one starts sinking faster than another one. And then you trade that boat in for the other one that is sinking less. And that's what all trading is about, guys. It's freaking boat hopping amongst boats, all of which are sinking, all of which have a leak, all of which have holes in them. But it's about finding the financial item that is sinking the least. All of them are failing. All of them are eroding in value. All of them are sinking. And all of them will be underwater at one point or another. But your job is to stay alive the longest by seeking out the boat that is sinking the slowest. And that position, that slower boat, is always changing. Therefore, the need to trade. But when you find a boat that doesn't leak, when you find a boat which we never thought existed before, when you find this boat that doesn't have a leak, that doesn't have a hole, that's not sinking, in fact, it's freaking rising, then why is there a need to trade? You have eliminated the need to jump in from one boat to the next because your boat has no hole, has no leak. And because of this, this boat saves you. This is why Bitcoin is commonly referred to as salvation, as freedom. It is freedom from this clown game that we are forced to play by switching boats, jumping from here to there, switching over here. Okay, oh, now it's bonds. Oh, wait a minute, now it's stocks. Oh, now it's real estate. Wait a minute, now it's precious metals. Now it's oil. Now it's the bullshit. It should be freaking one thing. And thank God that Bitcoin's come to deliver that. Now, some people ask, well, Oliver, then you don't trade anymore? Well, of course. I will tell you this. I've traded every single day, every single market open day of my life for the most part, more or less, for the last 43 years of my life. It's the only thing I know. It's the only thing I've ever done with my life. People think I'm an expert on other things, but I tell them all the time, dude, I'm just a trader. That's not really saying a lot either. There's some dumb traders out there. You don't have to be smart to make money as a trader. I'm just a trader. It's the only thing I've ever done. I don't know anything else. But I do it every single day. And I do it with traders all over the world. I have traders in 95 different countries. But I will say this. Today, my trading has taken on a different nature. It has a different purpose behind it. I no longer trade to make more US dollars, to make more of a leaky boat, to continue with that metaphor. I trade to leave the system. I trade to convert. I trade to escape. I trade to transition. I trade for Bitcoin. I trade to make US dollars to convert to Bitcoin, and they will stay there forever. Do you understand? It's sort of like I am depleting. I'm doing my part to deplete the growing supply of US dollars by taking them out of the system and converting them to something true, something real, something that not only has saved my life, but will save the lives of my children, their children, and children not even thought about being born yet in my family line. My dollars, that leaky boat that I convert to the boat that does not have a leak, I am never going back the other way. You're always trying to get me. Some of you are always trying to get me to pick a point. Oliver, when you're going to sell? Sell for what? To go back to a leaky boat? Really? I escaped that. What are you talking about? The lack of understanding of what Bitcoin is. The proof that you don't understand is the question, when do I sell? That's sort of like a slave saying, now that I have earned my freedom from this leaky boat situation, when do I go back to it? Tell me, when is it appropriate to go back to slavery? When is freedom overbought? Well, Oliver, the freedom is up against resistance, and the RSI indicator is in an overbought position as well as the stochastic. And if I draw this trend line across the highs of freedom, it tells me that freedom should drop from here. Like, are you freaking stupid? Really? This is not some frickin' rinky dink stock. This is freedom. You don't draw lines on freedom. You don't trade freedom for something else once you have it. Your desire to sell this is the living proof that you need to hit the books more. You need to study more. You need to go deeper down the rabbit hole because you know not that which you have, sir, madam. And so I tell people all the time, you don't have to put every single dime that you make into Bitcoin. I'm not saying that. Use the shit to buy your shit with. But whatever you don't need, that's what you convert. I am not one. I'm a team one of these people like live with no chairs and live like you're a hermit. Okay, if you want to do that, that's on you. I'm not doing that. I want to live and I want to live well. I will take the shit that I make from trading and live well with it, but there's a lot of it that I don't need. There's a lot of it that I would be spending on bullshit. I'm now taking that and I'm making it into something permanent. I'm converting it into something that will forever reward my family line for the rest of eternity. And so I just believe that almost everyone here that I speak to on Twitter, I know there are some people that this doesn't apply to, but they're not here. So I'm safe by saying all of you have some amount that you don't need every single week of your life. Put that in Bitcoin. You're going to fuck it up anyway. You're going to blow it somewhere anyway. Just put it in Bitcoin and start building some sense of pride for how much you have. Start making that the thing that you seek versus a purse with some other dude's name on it or a pair of shoes with some other organization's name on it or some fancy car that gets you from point A to B or some trinket or contraption that you're proud of for the moment, but in 5 months it'll be in your basement somewhere or in your garage somewhere collecting dust. Put all that stuff into Bitcoin. Put it in something that will live forever, reward you forever. Do you understand that for the first time we have something that delivers certainty? We've never had certainty because we've always had to trust a human being, and we know that humans aren't trustworthy. We know that humans aren't certain. How many humans have failed you in your life? All of them. Everything that we've ever had to rely on, we had to rely on another human being. And for the first time, we have something that is available to every single human being, yet it is outside the control and the purview of every human being on earth. It is available to every human being, but can't be controlled by any human being. It's available to every human being, accessible to every human being, but cannot be manipulated by any human being. That's something that's mathematically designed to last forever and something that is mathematically designed to rise in value every 4 years of its life. Think about this. If I were to tell you, I've got a bet, I've got a sure thing. This thing is guaranteed to be worth more 4 years from today than it is now. And if I could convince you that that was true, wouldn't you do everything in your power to round up everything you could over the next several years and dump it on that play? If someone from a casino in Las Vegas told you, we've got the sure bet, you can't tell anyone though. The bet's going to take place on this day. You just got to get as much money as you can to bet it's a guaranteed win. It's 4 years from now. You would spend every single freaking waking moment trying to get as much money as you possibly can, borrow from your neighbors, your relatives, your mom, your dad, everybody, because this bet's guaranteed. You'd say, I'm going to change my life with this bet. That's what you would do. And I'm telling you, we have that today in Bitcoin. We have never had this level of certainty because we've never had something that has relied on math. We've never had something available to us that is based on the laws of the universe. For the first time, we have something certain. There is certainty in the world. There used to be the saying, the only thing certain is death and taxes. Well, now we can add Bitcoin to that list, can't we? The only thing certain in life is death, taxes, and Bitcoin. And Bitcoin escapes death and taxes. How do you like them apples? I love it. I freaking love it. Let's see what else you got here. Nobody asks me questions. That's okay. That's all right. Federico is asking, Oliver, can we go deeper on how Bitcoin helps to balance the electrical grid and make it ESG friendly, please? Well, like I told you, I'm no expert, Federico, and this is definitely one of the areas I am no expert in. I can take a stab at very general and understand this very broad strokes. But because of Bitcoin's incentive models, all right, it is advantageous for Bitcoin miners to scour planet Earth and seek out the cheapest, lowest cost, most efficient forms of energy for their Bitcoin mining. And what Bitcoin miners do is they will use the entire planet to do this. And so think about this. Think about how, whether you believe in God or providence or nature or history, pick the word. I don't care. Evolution. I don't care what words you pick. The words aren't important. But something in all of its wisdom made sure that the energy on Earth is basically distributed all over the globe. That there are no centralized pockets of energy. Yes, there are certain pockets that have a little bit more than other pockets. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that the cheapest energy is actually fairly widely distributed across the entire globe, which means that there is no one country that has so much of a dominant edge over another. Now, think of a Bitcoinized world that relies on the lowest cost energy, and that energy base being available widely across the planet Earth, which means that no country really has so much of an edge. Now, by Bitcoin miners having no geographical boundaries, they will seek out the lowest cost energy on planet Earth. And renewables are very cheap energy. And so, but one of the problems is that countries that want to develop their renewable energy sources, they want to bring them to market. They want to develop. It takes enormous investment to do this. And one of the problems is that you have to plan decades in advance. And so the way I understand it, and I could be really messing this up, but the way I understand it is if I build this plant of some sort as clean energy, whatever, I have to build it in an area that doesn't have a lot of people, but in the future will have a lot of people. So who's going to pay for the energy? I've got to spend billions upon billions of dollars to build it for people that are going to be born 60, 70, 80 years from now. But how do I survive for 6 decades waiting for these people to be born when this thing is running up cost every single day? So the problem is that we have the solution to cleaner energy. It's like, but it's not profitable enough to do it. But enter Bitcoin miners that say, listen, build your shit over here. I will buy the energy. I will buy this cheap energy for you forever. I will do it for as long as it takes. And when more people need more of it, I will just take less. And if they need me to shut my miners down because there's too much use on the part of the public, I will shut it down. And so you have these scenarios where now major investments can go into building out better sources of energy. It evens out this volatile cost, this volatile supply and demand, where right now we've got almost too much demand from people. But then next month we'll have almost no demand from people. How do we survive during no demand? Enter Bitcoin miners. Bitcoin miners say, I'll scoop in and take all of it. There are electric grids that are in places, right? There are parts of the electric grid that are in places where people just don't run their heaters in the summer. Demand goes down. And these energy companies lose tons of money during that period. It's their off period. But that off period could stop being an off period if you plugged a Bitcoin miner in there who'd say, I'll take it freaking all. I'll take whatever your soft or down periods are, I'll take it all. What do you want? I'll pay, they want the best prices. So I'll pay whenever your weakest times are, and I'll shut down in your strongest times. Let's work together. And so now it's economically viable to expand this model. It's economically viable to go to areas that don't have it but need it, will need it in the future, but the investment's too big now to wait for the future. Enter Bitcoin miners. That's sort of like my broad stroke way at it. Again, I'm no expert in this area, but it is freaking amazing from what so guys, I see a day where every single human being on earth is a miner. Oh yes, I see this day. I see a day where Bitcoin mining is built in every single electronic that you purchase, from a can opener to a blender, that is freaking always just mining. And while it's not going to make you wealthy because the amounts are going to be so small, but I believe it's possible for energy to ultimately at one point in the future become rightfully free for every single human being, because every single thing they have contributes to the Bitcoin network. Every single device, every single electronic, every single automobile. Do you understand? And your contribution that way to the Bitcoin network means you live an energy-free life. I see this. I see it as freaking clear as night follows the day, people. The world will mine Bitcoin, and it's mind expanding if you even attempt to wrap it around this concept. I honestly have to say it's a concept at this particular point, but it's spreading. It's spreading. You've got Bitcoin heaters now, Bitcoin air conditioners. I'm telling you, it's coming. It's coming. And I purposefully use that term, the, you know, the rightful state of free energy, because I truly believe that energy should not be levied on the human species as a cost. Like, I gotta pay for the Earth's energy? Are you freaking kidding me? If there was a way to charge us for air, it would be done. But they found a way to charge us for energy, and energy's been free. Do you know how many millions of years we survived and lived without paying for energy? It's not really something we can't have for free. It's just been co-opted by the elite, right? And so Bitcoin is going to liberate energy for the entire human race, in my opinion, and make it free again. It was free for millions of years, and it's going to go back to being free for every single human being on Earth if the way I see things occurs. And because I'm always right. No, I'm teasing you. It's just the way I see things, guys. Now, I hope that helps a little bit with that question. You know, like I said, I'm no expert or what have you. That's it. That's all I got, guys. I got no more questions here. Let me just see if there's some in my regular comments here, though, because sometimes I get questions that come through. Yeah, nada. Well, it is Saturday, guys. I understand this. All right. Let me end my talk here today. Let me end my talk here today. Federico says, great answer. Many thanks. Awesome. I appreciate it. I do want to, oh wait, here's one from Mike. Mike's asking again. So renewable plants have demand increases and decreases as well. Yes. Extra energy can be sold to miners, makes the project feasible. Absolutely. Perfect. Beautiful. All right. So, guys, let me just make a point here. On my post, my Greta post here. And let me make clarification. I got so much engagement on this, it actually surprised me. I thought it was going to practically go unnoticed. It's this post on Greta, whatever her name is, Thunberg. It's clearly fake, guys. This would be international news, no? This little girl. And she's much older than this fake video and what have you. So it was clear. I thought I did not have to actually explicitly put that out. So I did put it out sort of as a joke of her talking about her flip to a supportive stance on Bitcoin and how she has discovered or realized that it is not bad for the environment, but yet, in fact, it's actually beneficial to the environment by being an incentive to drive renewable energies. And so obviously fake, I didn't think I needed to really point that out so clearly. But the attempt was to use this joke as a way to deliver this truth. And I mentioned this on a couple of occasions in my responses to people who were saying, Oliver, it's fake, it's AI. And said, look, I understand that. It's a joke, it's a meme. But jokes have historically been one of the best delivery mechanisms for truth. And this is why our comedians are so adored, because they take truths and find comedic ways to deliver them. And what the joke allows for is the lowering of one's defenses. The truth, a joke impregnated with the truth, will penetrate more people than the truth itself, because the truth tends to hurt. The truth tends to be sharper. It's the joke or the meme that gets past these prejudices and allows for that seed of truth that is that impregnates the joke or the meme and allows it to gain root behind the wall of prejudices and start to germinate and grow. And so it was just used as a way to deliver what is absolutely true. The words from this deep fake AI video, these words couldn't be truer. But look at the attention that those words got versus me saying them. And that's the whole freaking point. That it just, for whatever reason, jokes and memes deliver the truth more effectively. Now, what I was thrown by is how many people felt like they were what's the name of this character? Horseshack. I know I'm dating myself here, guys. But there was this show back in the 1970s. I watched it as a kid called Welcome Back, Carter. I know this is probably, most of you are too young to even know what this show was, but it did feature one John Travolta as its star. And actually, it's what gave him his initial popularity. The show called Welcome Back, Carter. And on this show was this character called Horseshack. And it was set in this school classroom. And it was supposed to be a trouble school and a trouble class. And this teacher, Mr. Cotter, was there to basically save the day. I'm going to save these children from themselves. And there was this character, one of the students called Horseshack, who none of them are very intelligent. And but whenever Horseshack knew something, he usually didn't, but whenever he did, he would just burst out with his hand held as high as he possibly could and say, "Ooh, ooh, 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 ooh," trying to get the teacher's attention. I know the answer. Ooh, ooh. I did not know I had so many Horshacks as followers. Ooh, Oliver, I know, it's fake, Oliver, it's fake, ooh, 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 ooh. Dude, why don't you do that with my other posts? Like, I think I post some pretty good shit on here. I don't get, ooh, ooh, ooh. I don't get your comments on those. I don't get anybody trying to get my attention. I don't get anyone trying to get to the front of the classroom. I don't get anyone saying, "Ooh, ooh, me. I know that." No, none on all of the deep stuff, nothing. But on this, you know it's a fake. Congratulations. It's a great discovery. Did you miss the message, though? That Bitcoin is good for the environment. That's was the purpose. You guys crack me up, guys. But a lot of you do need to relax, guys. Buy some Bitcoins, stack today, and chill. Relax. Go outside, take a walk, take your shoes off, touch some grass, breathe in and out deeply. It's going to be okay. I want to thank you all for joining me. I have no idea how many people are here. It's probably like 2 or 3 people here today. Oh no, I got more. It's crazy. Well, thank you guys for attending. I usually don't draw a big audience here. It's okay. If I can just help a single person see something a little differently or realize something, it's all worth it for me. And as I told you, these things do wind up on other mediums and do get wider adoption. So I am happy to do these things. And so once again, thank you. I know your time is valuable. It's something that you can't give back. I'm always telling you that I will always do my best to respect that. Every single time I'm afforded the opportunity to speak to you about this wonderful thing called Bitcoin, I will do my best to deliver something of value. I hope I did that here today. If I didn't, if I failed in some way, I promise every single time I'm gonna try to get better and better and better. All right, guys, love you all. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and you know what to do. Go to work. Stack harder. My name is Oliver Velez, and I am your 13%er Bitcoiner. Be safe out there, and until next time. Boom!